What's happening, good people? When I tell you I'm winging it, I'm winging it. That's why I put the title as to be determined. Because I ain't got nothing. That's not true. It's not that I don't have anything planned. But usually I have some talking points, some bullet points. I saw that Sleeper was in here earlier. I had to reschedule the live stream because I was cozied up with the missus, man. And time got away from me. Big time. So what's happening, folks? How y'all doing today? Y'all doing all right? I just ran out to get some pizza for the family from this spot. Pizza is delicious. Um, so what's been going on lately? I just got back from uh, like a little short road trip with the family, change of pace. I took the Bouge Juice Go with me, which is nice. And I took the Sevcoms 240. The Bouge Juice Go is about a 250 watt hour joint. I really like that joint. I really do. I enjoy it very much. It has 100 watt PD bidirectional charging. It has a light that turns on without having to turn the device on. I think it's going to be one of the best, like, go out for a walk in the woods kind of power stations. It's like super versatile. The only knock I have on it is it's 8 millimeter instead of 5521. And that's a personal thing for me. I love 5521, especially when you don't go above about 100 watts of solar. Now, what's up, Nathan? That was cool. I used them for night lights for my kids. So the Juice Go was nice to have. I just charged it over USB-C. I always bring a solar panel with me. And I actually very often grab the Elecanta 120 watt. And again, this is my point about the 8 millimeter. The Elecanta natively defaults to 5521. So I had to grab a couple. I don't think this is one. This might be one. I had to grab a couple 5521 to 8 millimeters because, as they say, two is one, one is none. So I grabbed a couple of those, and we jumped on the road, man. It was a nice little trip. Good to have the power stations in tow. We never need them, but it's better to have them and not need them than need them and not have them. So I take two with me because we typically have two rooms that the kids can kind of split off into. So both of those rooms can have light or night lights during the nighttime. And I typically take two flashlights with me. Instead of taking my two anchors this time, Thrunites. I usually take my two Thrunites, the TN something 15s. I guess I could show this stuff. I took my Thrunite and my Nicron. They might still be in my bag. This is my little Amazon computer bag. I like this because it's like sleek and svelte. I don't like bulky bags. This is my Nicron, I believe. Or Nicron. Is it Nicron? Nicron. Nicron. And I like this one because it starts off wide and it telescopes into narrow. Wide is clutch. I like that so much on a flashlight. So I was ready, man. I actually charged up my batteries before I left with this little X-Star XT18650 battery charger. So I was good to go on that. They did not send that to me. I had to buy it myself. I was trying to get some more batteries out of them because when we were working together, they sent me a battery pack to feature on a live stream, which I really like that battery pack. This is my Thrunite TN something. No, it's the TC. It's the TC12 because it's the rechargeable one. The other one that's not rechargeable is the TN12. It's a nice little flashlight. Very it's not the most expensive because I don't like buying expensive flashlights, but this one's like $60 or something like that. So before I set out, I played I tried to be very smart about setting up my power stations to succeed. So what I did was I took the EcoFlow river, much like the last configuration we did, but I did things a little bit different. I took the EcoFlow, put it on wall power. I don't know if I can trust it on solar. I can trust it in that it has that auto AC on, but if I put that on solar and then put my internet on it, whenever it dies, my internet is going to go down. So then I can't look at my cameras and stuff like that. So that was fun. That's a fun situation to deal with. Like, okay, do I do that? So I just put it on the wall and plugged it in. It was mostly charged to about 80%, which I tried to do intentionally that day. I had it plugged into a 200 watt all powers flexible panel, which I really like. I may need to reshoot that video. I'm not sure, but I have the video shot, but I don't like some of the angles and, you know, how I shot it. It's kind of weird, but I may just put it out there and say bump it. But that was plugged into the wall. I put a lamp on a what's it called? A switch. I forget what the app is called. I put a lamp on a switch so I could control it remotely. It would be nice if power stations had the ability to individually control their outlets. That would be dope. I think there's one power station out there that lets you do that. Wayne was telling me about it. It might be an all powers one, an older all powers one. I'm not sure which one it was. SwitchBot. I have SwitchBot switches. I have 4 of them. I've been thinking about buying some more for reasons that I'll tell you in a second. But I had a lamp on a light switch so I could turn that on at night. I wasn't into it heavily. We were gone for like about 4 days, 3 nights. But I did sometimes turn it on because I could. Why not, right? So the internet was on that. The lamp was on that. My AC 60 was not in the mix, and the reason why is it does not turn back on from solar charging, which is stupid. I'm tempted to do a video where I talk about like these are like the cardinal sins that these power station makers are committing and they need to stop. One of them is not being able to turn back on from solar charging without me having to intervene. And I imagine if I unplug it in the morning and then plug it back in, it'll start charging. But if I leave it on solar, which I do all the time, every day it's left on solar. It charges until it stops. It runs my internet for as long as it can run it, which is if it's charged up, it can typically last a whole day. So I don't have to deal with this a whole lot. But if I get a shady day or an overcast day or something like that, and a device dies, when it dies that night or at some point, when the sun comes back out, I could have that solar panel out in like Habib Marwan's sun, which means it goes hard in the paint. That device will not charge the whole day. I actually missed out on some power before I left for my trip. I didn't come over to it and press the button to turn it on. And I had repositioned the panel. The panel was in full sun and I wasn't getting none of that power. I actually ended up losing out on pretty much a full day of solar because I didn't go over there and press the button. So that's kind of stupid. And I hate that it does that. And the sad part is that the EcoFlow, if you put it on solar, it will charge. It behaves the way it's supposed to do. It's one of the only power stations that have that AC auto on. So if you have the AC power in the on position and it dies, when it starts to charge back up, once it gets to 5%, it'll turn the AC back on. In a situation like this where I'm gone, if that battery, like let's say I had the Delta 2, which is 1,000 watt hour device, 1,000 watt hours is a good bit of power, but let's just say a couple overcast days, a couple like rainy days, I lost power. When it turns off, if the sun comes back while I'm not away from home, the EcoFlow is going to turn back on, Wi-Fi is going to turn back on, and AC is going to turn back on, which means my internet is going to turn back on. And I think that that's fantastic. So the EcoFlow River Max 2 that I have, with it not having a whole lot of watt hour capacity, I kind of don't want to put it into that position, but I could have. It's just that typically when we're about to travel, I'm managing a whole lot of home stuff, not necessarily travel stuff, because my wife will argue she does most of the preparing for the travels. If she was down here, she'd be chiming in. And she does. But I feel like I do stuff around the house as well that may not be as important to her, but it's important. Like, locking windows, making sure things are closed, making sure things are set up in a way that they need to be, making sure things that are brought in that we don't want to walk away, and just things that she don't care about as a lady. So because I was doing so much, I didn't think to turn the Blue Yeti AC60 on, which means it lost out on solar. That was cool though. The fact that I was able to line up the EcoFlow as 80% charge was actually a good look. Let me see what y'all snapping and trapping about. Hey, Grand Acres, I saw your name down there. I didn't see what you said though. Sharp Farming, I read that earlier. Nathan, what up? What up? What's going on for me is I'm running 50% of my electrical on solar at this point. Nice. That's so fire. What I got this in my ear for? My Bluetooth earbuds. These are the SoundPEATS Air Deluxe. I kind of like these. They're not super loud in the car, but they get the job done. They're better for around the house, but I like the size of them. They're really like kind of tiny. I was not going, and they only cost me maybe $50, $60. I was not going to pay. I had a pair of AirPods that I got with like a $200 gift card from switching to Fios, even though I was with Fios already, and I wasn't going, they died on me. I wasn't going to buy them dips again. So I had to search really hard to find some of these style earbuds that are very similar to the Apple ones because I like those. Let's see. So I like this style of headphone. I was super early on the iPod train. I bought that dip when it had like FireWire. So I've been a bit of an Apple guy from its inception, but I'm not an Apple guy currently. Yeah, they could kick rocks.
Can I give you an update?
Grand evening. That's such an interesting phrase that has caught on. Grand rising, grand evening, grand ... so on and so forth. But I appreciate that. To all the beautiful warm, to you all on this beautiful warm spring day in Southern Texas, man. I bet you're living a dream out there with all that heat and all that sun. That's what's up. What did I watch? I watched a video of yours. Oh, the camera's up here, Mama. You got wave up here. You see your head? You see your head peeking? You see your head peeking in there? What you trying to do? You want to be on camera for a little bit? Come on, come say hi. There you go. Say hi. Up higher. Say hi. Now say bye. Bye. See you later. I'm sure the people are saying hi to you. I was saying I saw one of your videos about you stuck. It's okay. As long as they're not loud, it's fine. They don't get obnoxious. It's good. Regional Sky Girl actually shared your video to her crew, and she tagged me and you in it. And it was like your power supply plant video. I didn't get a chance to dig in too deeply into like me sharing it and stuff like that. It's kind of like one of those things in passing. First live in a while. Yeah, it's been a while, man. What's going on? Good to see you with that bike still out there. Happy Sabbath to the room. Oh, interesting. Do you celebrate the Sabbath on Saturday? That's peculiar. No knock. I get it. Hey, Katie's Camp Kitchen. I was actually looking at your video on you making the chili. I wasn't watching the video. I was driving and I was going to listen to something like some YouTube tips and tricks or something like that. And I saw your video in my feed. And I was like, oh, I got to check that out. Check out. So Katie's Camp Kitchen, she has a video now where she's making like some type of chili, I believe. On like a portable power station. She does quite a few of those videos. So y'all go check out Katie's Camp Kitchen if you're into that kind of thing. If you're not, it's okay. We forgive you. We love you all the same, right? Did I read the rest of it? Power is out here due to a snowstorm. Have the internet and TV running on a power station. Man, I wish you guys the best, but I'm glad you guys are prepared. That's dope. Tell me more about that. What region of the country are you in? I don't think I know what region you're in. What's you doing? Yeah, tell me more about that. The Ego Nexus power station, you can individually turn on and off the three. I think it may have been you who's telling me that. So I know there's a device out there that you can do that. So the Ego power station, you can do it. Less stuff, more freedom. Man, I forgot to let you know I was going live. My bad. You definitely told me to ask me to let you know, and I forgot to let you know. So that's my fault, but I'm glad you caught it. Good to see you, sir. Hey, Delgado, what's happening? Hopefully you don't get booted out of the live stream like you did on the premiere. That was crazy. Ready for any emergency situation. That's what's up. Hey, good to see you. Good to see you. Sharp Farmaid. Anyone know of an excellent 4-season tent that will not break the bank? This is the time of year when air is warming but still cool and the bugs are still dormant. So you're trying to get out there. I dig it. This is a good travel time too, man. That's kind of why we headed out for a little bit, because I think the prices haven't gone up because it's not quite summer yet. So we got like a decent price on an Airbnb joint for a few nights. It was a good change of pace. I thought it was nice. Luis Gonzalez. Good to see you, man. I barely hear the kids in the background. Yeah, they kind of went upstairs on their phone. My wife had them go up. This is a part of their screen time, so they can go enjoy it upstairs. The only downside is they can't play the Xbox like they usually do. I think my son is back here doing homeschool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, mommy said you was in a bad mood. You doing okay?
Yeah.
All right, good. Good to hear you're doing better. They have to get homeschooling done, some schooling done before they can have screen time. And because we weren't at the house for the majority of the week, I think she was being a stickler for that. Hi, Amber. That name looks very familiar, but you know, it's common. But that's the name of one of my former neighbors, I believe. I don't think you live around there anymore. Don't, if that is you, don't say where you live. I'll be trying to stay low key out here in these internet streets. I like the $25 earbuds on Amazon. Just tapped in here. Lots of good info and cuteness. Yeah, that sounds like probably my neighbor. Thank you, Delgado. Appreciate it. LA Times, what's happening? Good to see the name. Good to see the name. Your daughter has a great smile, doesn't she? She has a fantastic. She is our friendliest kid by far. Not necessarily super outgoing, but she is somewhat the nicest in that she's very warm initially. When she gets a little older, she will be taking over your generators to power up her cell phone. I could see that happening. My son has gotten into power stations too. He's been kind of chill, but I think it's mainly because it's not warm out. He'll probably get back into it during the summer. We'll see. You think you're gonna get back into putting the power station and panels out there?
Yeah.
During the summer months?
All I want is really longer wires.
Oh yes. What you want the longer wires for?
So that like the wires can come inside the house, and even if you still get that wire, you have like all of the like places that wires can come in.
The good thing is the garage door, we could run as many wires under that as possible as we want.
Like we can fill our whole garage up with wires.
Yeah.
Still walk.
Yeah. He's been having to have his power stations outside, so he wants like the longer wires to get him in the house, like daddy, which I ain't mad at. I ain't mad at it at all. We had power outages Wednesday and Thursday due to heavy, savage spring thunderstorms with hail. But I had plenty of stored backup and wasn't worried. I love the security of DIY off-grid solar. That's what's up. Regenerative is always a mouthful. Life Wayne. He has content on his channel. So he's into a bunch of stuff. You know what I mean? Solar power, he's growing, his planning, and so on and so forth. So y'all go check his channel out too. Canvas tents are just expensive. No other way to put it. I would love to have one. Oh, okay, cool. Good to see you, Amber. Good to hear you got away for a while. Yeah, man, we jumped on the road for a couple hours. We got hammered with snow today, but you know what's interesting? We went up north for a little bit, and I have a friend who's also up north as well. and he was asking how we fared out with travel, and I was just like, yeah, we was fine. We got back in like Friday, and we didn't have any problems coming back in. It was good money, so thank the Lord for that. Have you tried to get a Mango power station? Nah, Mango kind of spendy, but they might be looking for another review, and I'm sure you would be a good fit. I don't think I have enough subscribers for a company like Mango. Mango is one. Apollo, that Hisense one is another. Who are the people that have the Sharp Farm? You have their power station, the one that has the first one that have the 240 volt built in. Who are those people? The Super Bass V. That's another company. Those kind of companies, because they're relatively like I just think they're looking for the big windfall of views. They're not necessarily always looking to spread out amongst all the type of people in the niche solar. So I don't think I have a big chance with those kind of companies with the current number of subscribers that I have now, which is why I'm kind of trying to get to 10K and above. And the interesting thing is, it's like I'm not complaining, but I look at some of my contemporaries, you know, the Ty Parker, Jason Noy, who's a friend of the channel, Reway Outdoors. All of those guys have viral videos. I don't necessarily have a viral video, man. Jason Noy, I think he has a video. I saw Ty Parker had a video with like 260 something thousand views on it. So that helps you get subscribers for sure. I think Jason Noy did really well on his chicken coop video. He had a couple videos. That video, I think he said, went viral. Reway has a couple high view videos. So those guys, their subs are up there. I remember when Ty Parker was around, uh, just starting out. I remember when Jason Noy was at about 15. He was at 15 when I was at like 5. Or maybe he was at 10 when I was at like 5 or something like that. It's like when you go viral, man, that really skyrockets your exposure. And I don't have a viral video yet. And that's okay with me. I got to get out from under a lot of these review videos that I need to do so I can make more casual videos, because my brain is just bogged down with all of these videos I have to make. I have a good like 6 to 8 videos that are just behind that need to be made. About 4 power stations, 2 batteries, I believe. And if I count it, 2 generators, which I had like grand ideas for the generators, but I'm just gonna have to unbox them and kind of like do what I did with the DC fridge, because those videos will never get made if it's up to me kind of planning out the video the way that I want to. I don't have the mental capacity and the time to. You're not tall enough. There were some people who say hi to you. You gotta wave high. You gotta put your hand up high. There you go. There you go. There's that hand. Not low. This is the camera right here. Right here. Huh? What'd you say? Talk. I want to hear the words. All right. Well, you know, I can't work with that. So, one company I haven't taken the time to look into, but I think will probably be a good company if they reach out. That'd be perfect. But I'm not going to initiate reaching out to them. I think it was LA Times who mentioned Dabson. I've been looking at Dabson for a good 2 months, maybe, just on and off, because their power stations look interesting. It's a power station, you know, but they look interesting. I like the look of them, and they seem capable. A lot of the people who was making videos about them, they seem like they like them as well. There's something else I wanted to talk to you guys about for sure. Let me read these last few comments. Let's see. Zendor, thank you, LA Times, thank you, Shop for me. My 2-step guard. What's happening? I'm glad you caught me live too. It's always good to have you guys in the room. New Hampshire, sorry for the delayed response. We had a little hiccup for a minute. That's all good. No apologies necessary. I finally pull the water gun and purchase. Oh, nice! You pulled the trigger and purchased a Tesla Model 3. Now I'm setting my off-grid generators up, the larger ones, to charge it up for free with my off-grid DIY system. Set tight. Every time I talk to him and he hears people talk about free solar power, what's wrong, Jojo? Oh man, that sucks. Why you keep doing that, man? I feel like plug your phone into the white cable. Where's the white cable? Oh, it's not there? Did mommy steal a white cable? Holy moly. Dang, that sucks. We're going to have to get in the habit of charging your phones, guys. I try to do it, but it may be a responsibility that I have to put on y'all because y'all have to deal with them dying. There's the blue phone, right? Why don't you grab that one? Oh, well, yeah, it's an emotion thing, right? You're not managing your feelings well. Okay, well, we don't got to talk. I'm talking to all these good people. That's pretty dope. Oh, the free power. He always gets nitpicky about that. It's like, I get it, especially if you come from a standpoint of preparedness where you were going to buy this stuff anyway. Like if you got into it for one reason, and that was the reason that you bought it, and it's serving its purpose, whatever other purpose you use it for, then yes, it's kind of free because that's not what you intended to use it for. So any power that's generated, you already paid for it. Now, I do believe in trying to recoup, but it takes forever to recoup battery purchases for sure. I feel like I haven't done the math on this lately because batteries have gotten a little bit cheaper. But whenever I did the math a few years ago about trying to make solar make sense, it was like a 4 to 7 year recoup period. Maybe that's better now with used panels and cheaper batteries and so on and so forth. Yeah.
So what cable do I use to charge my phone?
You could use the black one. Is something charging on the black one already?
Yeah,
What?
those phone is only at 21%.
Oh, okay. Well, I could plug your phone up over here. Just bring it to me. Let's see here. Get your feelings together, son. Recover. You'll be fine. Go ahead. You gotta wait for it to charge now. Let's put this up here. Okay, cool. But I'm glad to hear you got the Tesla. I want an EV. By the time I can afford one, maybe they'll be good enough to justify the purchase. That's what I always say. Couldn't hurt to ask. Yeah, but then I'd have to make the video. And I got videos to make already. I know that subscribers definitely help with companies, but have you concentrated on your Google reviews? I don't do Google reviews, so nope, I haven't concentrated on that. That's how I get companies to send me some things. I got nearly 32 million likes on Google reviews. What do you mean? How do you Google review a product? That's interesting. I really like the Mango Union. The newer ones, not so much. Oh, I don't even know what Mango has going for them. I watched some of these videos, but I watched them just casually consuming it because me being utilitarian, that information is not necessarily super useful to me when I'm viewing as from a consumer standpoint, because I know I would never buy one. What you doing? But then if I watch it more intentionally, like I may have one coming, or I know I'm going to try and talk about it on a live stream or something, then I kind of watch it with a more receptive ears. But, I just kind of consume it casually. I don't commit any information to memory or anything like that. And then with a lot of these videos, man, people have different styles. I more so like my style of creating videos where I give you like the features and functions and then the practical implications of those features and functions. some people, you can't count on them to even know what type of barrel connector is on the device. They'll be like, yeah, it's a barrel connector. I want to know how fast the AC adapter is going to charge it, what it's rated at. I want to know stuff like that. I think that kind of stuff is important, but whatever. You will go viral. This is awesome. People want to be resilient in power outages. I need some help on my future farm. Oh, we have to talk and catch up, because I was curious a couple of times about like what was going on. I was like, I don't think Amber lives around here anymore. I'll have to touch base with her to see what was going on. Thank you, Sharon. I appreciate that. What's up, 2%? What's happening? One day at a time, you're on your way. Yeah, I'm not complaining at all. I don't mind slow growth. The good thing is I enjoy doing it, so it don't hurt me. I've already succeeded as it relates to being on YouTube, as it relates to what I wanted to do. I wanted to get on to be able to help people with solar power while also sharing my journey and get some free products in the midst of all that. So I'm winning. I'm winning 100%. What's up, Byron? What's happening? Oh, smoking tea. What's up? Okay, let me know. I'll see how it works. I hate barrels ever since I broke a label maker because barrels have different polarities. That's true. What's interesting about that? I haven't really even committed it to memory, but if you look on a power adapter, it'll tell you what the polarity is on that power adapter. It'll tell you what the curve is, if it's plus or minus, and it'll tell you what the dot is. I wish I had something around that I could grab really quickly. You wouldn't be able to see it barely on this freaking camera, but I think that's cool. But I never cared enough to commit that information to memory. But if it ever came down to it, there's a way you could tell by looking at the power brick, and I learned that like super recently. Yeah, mango is too expensive. I will never buy one either. Now, if they want to give me one, that's a different story, right? So a lot of times when you have these expensive devices, they want to send them to these big guys who have the potential to just persuade someone to buy something just off of the strength that they follow them. Stuff works like that. People have their allegiances, and for example, Chrome from Van City Van Life. He only does Jackery videos, which I think is a little whack, but he has that relationship with him. Now, with Jackery being in the LFP game now, it's a little better. But when he only did those videos, let me say the videos that I've watched, he's only talked about Jackery videos. And when Jackery was not LFP, I could see how if I was watching during that time, you probably had some people who bought those power stations who, if they knew about something different, they would probably buy something different. I say all that to say, no knock on Chrome. I've actually been watching a lot of his YouTube content lately. I bailed out of his content a long time ago because he got real like bedroom voicey in his voiceovers, and it was like this stuff where I felt like, dude, this is not entertaining at all. It was just weird. But he kind of like, I checked back in like maybe like a year or two later, and he got a little more less boudoir-y in his voice. And also what helps me a lot is watching his content in 2x. That's fantastic because it gives even myself, I talk a lot of times very slowly. Sometimes I can kind of speed up, but when I'm listening back to myself, I don't talk super fast all the time. So it's easier to consume content. So that's a little trick I've been doing, man. I'll 1.5x you, 1.7x you, or 2x you right into me enjoying your video. So, that works out. But I think they send these power stations to these bigger channels because these bigger channels kind of have just kind of passive influence. Where if, for example, Chrome being a van lifer, Jackery being people who cater to vans, folks in their van, those people will probably just buy it because their favorite YouTuber is kind of vouching for it. And it's just like, I get it. You know what I mean? So with the Mango being a more expensive unit, I can see why that makes sense because you kind of want to move those units. At the end of the day, the goal is for them to be able to either get good feedback from their video, I suppose, or to sell units, you know what I mean? Or get exposure for people who might be interested in one. That's the trade-off that they take. Let me know about the Google reviews too. Yeah, SetTight would be good for that. So whatever he shares with me, I'll loop you in, bro. 100%. Shouts to Javi. What's happening, man? Long time no see. Good to hear from you. Good to see you, man. How's everything been going? How's your power situation looking? Is it constantly evolving? This is a question for all you guys. Is your power situation constantly evolving, or is it static now that you feel a little more secure in your power? Because look, man, a lot of us has come a long way. We started out, look, I started out with the Bodens, 166 watt hours on a 50 watt panel, just to be able to use my computer to edit some videos for my family vlog. You had back in the Gap, Lead Farmer, with the Go Power Plus or whatever it was, that joint that it wasn't the best decision as that price went up, but it was on clearance for like some crazy price. So I know that a lot of us had some power uncertainty, and just with the grid potentially having issues, you don't want to, who wants to be in the dark, right? So you get a couple power stations, the EB70, the EcoFlow, I'm not sure what else was popping back then. I had like a Rock Pals. But once you settle in, I wonder if, you guys are kind of like chilling, or are you continuing to like see something and like, that would be nice. That would be nice. This is a good upgrade for this. AC 200p, not so much AC, 200L, whatever. That would be perfect. That would be good for my needs. So I'm curious. Now the thing is boring out here. That's tough. With these hotter and hotter Texas summers, my light bill ranges from $400 to $550 per month. That is bananas. What is your watt hour, your kilowatt rate, Wayne? I'm curious about that. I saw a video of Plies. He was complaining and cussing and fussing about his electric bill because it was high, and I guess he lives somewhere in Texas. He was like, man, I'll turn the electricity off. I'll go hang out in the car. And I was like, man, plot twist, wait till you see how much gas will cost you to like, it was like, that ain't no better. Electricity is cheaper compared to gas, which goes to show how uninformed we are about electricity and the cost. Electricity is relatively cheap compared to everything else. That's why I did the live stream about if it's better to get a gas generator or to just spend a good bit of coin on having like a good 5 kilowatt battery or a 10 kilowatt battery, because the money that you spend with LifePo having those 3,000 to 5,000 cycles and the ability to charge it at 20 cents a kilowatt hour, nothing really compares to having that amount of power available to you in the case of a power outage. So I'm not necessarily a math guy, but I was just kind of trying to work through the idea and the concept. I was probably talking with SetTight's Tech Adventures about that. But it just seems like buying a battery, and there's a couple of videos out there now about people talking about how, gas generators are not really all that ideal anymore when you got like, your EcoFlow, Delta Pro, Ultron, Megatron, Age of Marvel comic superheroes, whatever the latest one is called. Is it the DPU? Every time I see DPU, I think of like dip switches for computers or a central processing unit. It's a very interesting, is it anagram? What's the word for something that it has a letter that stands for something? The Delta Pro Ultra, right? Not Ultron. I think those things make a compelling case for not having a generator. Absolutely. Especially if you live in a situation where you kind of can see the power outages coming. You can see the weather coming. It's not sneaking up on you. You got 10 kilowatt hours of battery, 5 kilowatt hours of battery, 2, 3, 4, and you do fine. I mean, it'd be a struggle, but what happens when you can't find gas? And we all know what happens when something's coming and people are like running on gas. It's hard to find it. Who wants to sit in line for hours? Anyway, don't get me to ranting, or do. What did you discover too late? Texans call it a light bill. We call it a light bill too in New Orleans. I don't know if that's true for Louisiana, but yes, it's a light bill for us too. Probably South people call it a light bill. I guess at the end of the day, the majority of what people are used to powering off of electricity is lights. So I can kind of get that. We do. So do we as Mississippians. There you go. I'm static right now. I'm not purchasing any more power stations at this time. I'm okay with what I have right now. How's your solar power on the roof still working out? Definitely secure. Slowly getting more involved in experimental projects. I dig it. I dig it. Do you find that in you guys being secure, did you have to hit a certain watt hour capacity or a certain watt capacity on your inverter? Like once you get a 2000 watt hour, 2000 watt inverter that can pretty much run anything in your home, it's like after that, it's like, that's nice, but I'm not compelled. I got an AC 200p. I don't need an AC 200L or whatever the newest one is. All right. Do you have single stage, dual stage, or inverter HVAC? I'm curious about his power cost because that is a lot of money. And I know down in the NO, energy is, it's notorious for having like very high, but I think it's just because the amount of time you have to run your AC. It's a very interesting thing. Then when people have central air, I don't know how much central air units typically pull, but as me and Setai talk about from time to time, it really seems like more people should have, what are those things called? They have like a very silly name that never makes sense to me. The little joints, they'll be, let me see, what do I need to point? They'll be up in your wall. What are they called? I don't know what they're called. I know some of y'all know. Let me scroll down. Heat pumps. Thank you. It seems like those things should be more popular than they are with the amount of heat and cooling that they can produce for the amount of power that they consume. I just think that those things should become more popular than they are for sure. Embarrassed to say I've yet to put a real load on my power station, but it's coming. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. I'm relocating to a rural area and I will rely much more heavily on solar lights, propane fuels. It makes sense. I think that it's important to practice using your stuff so that you know that it works. But I understand not running out there to just use it like I use it. Like I hammer my stuff every day. But I've always been in it for lowering my bills, saving pennies, but they my pennies, you know what I mean? And hammering these things because I went for longevity from the onset. My first power station was the Bodens with LFP batteries in it because I knew I was going to use that joint daily. Because as I've been called Amish before by David, I don't use a whole lot of power. So these power stations make much more of a difference in my life than they would say another person. What you scheming on? I already talked about you saying you do all the important stuff when we're traveling.
I do. Let me pull up a chair though. Actually, let me take these.
Down. Are you taking them up? I feel like Ivan, you can carry that one. That one's not heavy. Take your time, son. And I would have pushed it over there instead of carrying it. Power stations are hard to put a load on them without them dying in like an hour. Yeah, you say that, but even the example that she gives is she's talking about solar lights. I think that's what matters more than people. As you expand, it gets to be annoying to have power stations because when you put larger loads of them, they don't last long. But same old conversation we have all the time. Trying to use an EV70 in a tiny greenhouse to start seeds and it dies so fast with any decent load. I saw something. I'll swing the Byron's comment in a second. I really need another power station of 500 to 1,000 watt hours to power dump into on sunny days. I hate wasting the power of the sun. I can only use up so much power. I have a 900-watt solar array. Yeah, I don't know if you need a power station more than it would be nice for you to get a battery charger and one of these $250 1,000-watt-hour batteries. I think that's a good look. That's a good look. Just in those situations where you have extra power and then you have somewhere to put it, and then you could go 12 volt back to your power station of choice. Growing my DIY solar by purchasing more lithium batteries, increasing my storage capacity. I have 15 kilowatt hours. Yeah, I'm curious about how much your energy costs. Why you're having a $400 to $500 bill. I could tell portable power station P5000 takes a long time to charge. To charge from what, Byron? AC or solar? Absolutely. Understanding my zone usage was key for me. That's what's up. I gotcha. I too feel like it's just not right to waste a sunny day. That's a fact. That is a fact. All right, debris. Keyboard's all filthy. Yeah, they are ubiquitous in other countries, but America has cheap power. Has cheap power for too long, so we are slow to update. Interesting. Wait. I'm gonna get to Byron's comment in a second. I was talking to Wayne. Are any of y'all familiar with some solar eclipse that's happening on the 8th of April? And I have been told that there's some interesting activity surrounding this particular solar eclipse. Now, we don't have the good brother Joe Trott on here, who's always talking about CMEs, I believe, or something about the sun giving off something that could mess up things for a whole lot of people. Have y'all heard about that? Now, I'm curious about what Byron will say. I learned so much about different things, power, AC and solar. Okay. So I feel like I could be being silly here, but it was so important for me as it relates to this idea, the P5000 taking a long time to charge. It was so important for me to understand the inner, I'm not saying this, you don't, Byron, but the workings of power stations. I'll watch videos of YouTubers and they'll have like, let's say they have like a 200-watt array outside on a panel. Reway does this a lot. And some other like YouTube channels that I've seen, they'll say, okay, we have 200 watts. Let me put it out in the sun. Iridium does this a lot too, I believe. They'll put it out there and they'll say, let's see how fast it charged. Let's see how fast it charges being out there. And it'll be at 66%. And then they'll come out and they'll be like, oh yeah, it got to 90% in 2 hours. And I'm like, what does that even mean, man? That is a useless metric for people. And I guess people want to know, one thing that was always important to Solar Will was the idea that, and I think it's important drastically, can you charge it up in a day? Because if you can charge it up in a day, then you can use it for whatever power you need throughout the night. And then when a day happens again, you could charge it back up. The Jackery was always a problem when it came out, which was because you could not get it to be fully charged in a day. But here's the interesting thing. This is what I have to tell people sometimes, and I also have to tell myself. These percentage points are irrelevant. Sure, it feels good to get 100% charge power station. But if your EB70 is 614 watt hours versus a Delta 2, which is 1004 watt hours, the percentage, and I know I'm preaching to the preachers here, but the percentage doesn't matter. You put that panel out there, that 200 watt panel, it gave you 134 watts hour after hour. At the end of the day, let's say 5 hours of sun, you're going to have about 600 watt hours of capacity. Percentage is irrelevant. You're going to have 600 some odd watt hours in the Delta 2. You're going to have 600 some odd watt hours in the at AC200P. You're going to have 600 some odd watt hours in a EV70. So this idea of like, oh yeah, it got full in a couple hours. It's like, why does that matter? The power you have is the power you have. Now, if that dip gets full, that's more of a drawback to me than anything, having a full power station. I don't want a power station to be so beastie in terms of its solar capacity that when I bring it out, it's full by 10 a.m. Now I know certain off-grid people have they have a need to like have enough solar power so that when it's not sunny outside or when the sun is lower in the sky, that they have to be able to produce that power because their livelihood depends on it. But a lot of us are silly city dwellers. A lot of us have access to energy. It gets back to this idea of if you're gonna have a problem, charge up your power stations, charge up your battery banks before your electricity goes out, or keep them topped up to a capacity where you have room for your solar power to come in, and you also have room. The camera's right here, so people are going to say hello.
Hi.
Watch out, watch out, watch out. You're going to trip over the power stations.
What is that?
Because it's not on, it's not going to work. You want to take it at 23% and just kind of enjoy some time with it?
Nope. I'm gonna let it charge.
It's not, you're not going to charge it till full. The battery's so big that if you wait till it charges till full, you'll miss most of your screen time.
Okay.
So I feel like maybe about 40% would be good.
And it's at 24. So
Mhm.
think 24 is enough?
It's enough to get going. Maybe you have a few minutes on there, and then by the time it's about to die again, Daddy will probably be done with his live, and you could jump on your Xbox maybe. Yeah, it's all about thinking smart.
Okay.
So what you gonna do? You gonna take it, or you gonna leave it for a little longer?
I'm gonna leave it for a little longer.
You could also charge it upstairs. Daddy has a plug on the bed. You could plug it in there if Mommy hasn't moved it. It's up to you.
Nope.
All right, I'm gonna get back to my thing I got going on.
Okay.
So the idea that the P5000 takes a long time to charge, to me, is like, I get it. Don't get me wrong. I do understand it. There's some good feeling that washes over us when we have a full power station, whether 100% means 5 kilowatt hours or it means 700 watt hours. I get it. But for me, that P5000 being at 50 to 60% constantly would annoy the crap out of me. But then I would have to remind myself that you got 2.5 kilowatt hours in that power station. Whether it's full or not, you still got 2.5 kilowatt hours. You need to relax. That's how I have to talk to myself. But I also think it's very important to be strategic about knowing how much power your panels have the potential to produce. That's a lot of P's. Versus how much power you want to have in there in case of an emergency. I have been breaking a rule, and I'll probably talk about that in a different live stream, where I've been running my power stations down dead a lot, and I'm trying to get away from that. And I have been effective in getting away from that. Like one time I was running my house off of solar using my my male-to-male cables. I have one down here. I always have to give the disclaimer that these are very dangerous. You have to be very intentional, which is why I added this type of switch to it where I can control on and off. But even still, you know what? Quick deviation. I've noticed something about this cable. It only works one way. It only goes, and then the other way, if I flip it and I try to put this in between the male-to-male cable in the wall, it gets wonky. So it's an interesting thing. But I use these to power my house, and I am always tempted to continue to power my house as long as possible because I want to save as much money as possible. But then I have to think about emergency preparedness, and I'm just like, do not deplete all of your power stations. And sometimes I feel more comfortable with that than other times if I know that the day is going to be sunny the next day. But if I don't know that, and I'm also just trying to get in the habit of not depleting all of my power stations, that's just, I'm trying to get away from that because the main goal for me, as I said earlier, was to like be able to power stuff in my house, reduce the amount of power that I'm pulling off of the grid, and then be able to lower my bill as a result of that. I think we should look at my bill soon at some point during the live stream. We'll see. I'm sure people have opinions, so let me scroll down and get to some of these comments. AC and solar, my next venture, one of those 1,000 watt batteries. Oh yeah, that's a good look. I need to make a video about that. I have 2 batteries that I need to make a video, so make sure you watch both of those batteries, Grand Acres. They're both going to be very similar, but the angle for each is going to be different. I need to dig through my emails to see what ideas I pitched to the companies. But I have a Redodo and I have a lead time or lie time. But you can't beat that value of spending $250, $280 for 1,000 watt hours. It's just not. Yeah, I'm pretty close to the totality, but I'm probably not going to bother to go see it. Oh, I guess it's something with the Eclipse. 20 cents per kilowatt here. We need a backup generator to run our well water pump. Lots of times we run off of power stations until we need to take showers and fill the water tanks. I dig that 100%. Yes, but you have to be in the right pathway. Oh, okay, with the solar eclipse. Gotcha. And it depends if you are in the wrong path, etc. Sheba. What's happening? Yes, Houston here. We've been warned of possible power outages. Why? I know some solar farms will be affected as well. That's interesting. I don't know anything about it. My home is all electric. I have a large swimming pool. Also, that pump must run 24 hours in the summer. My air conditioner unit runs basically 24 hours in the hot Texas summer. I use a lot. How big is your home? Do you have a big home? Do you have a big family, or is it just you? I love my Alcatel. I'll wait. That's the stuff. I'm glad you like that Alcatel. 4.8 hours full charge, 1,000 watt MPPT solar, perfect sun. Yeah, that makes sense to me. I'm always confused by it. It's 1,000 watts against a 5 kilowatt battery. That's how long it's supposed to take. Again, not picking on you, Byron, but it's just an interesting concept because I think we're programmed to have a 100% full. That's what I don't understand about the car situation. People have range anxiety, and I get that. I'm not trying to be insensitive to people having range anxiety, but the majority of most things we do around our home are not very far drives. And I know there's caveats. Apartment dwellers, people who need fast chargers. If you're an apartment dweller, you probably shouldn't have a Tesla in the first place, but who am I to judge? But if you could throw even, I feel like Teslas are fine. My grocery store is 3 miles away. Going to a bigger, like Walmart type of situation is probably 20 minutes away or something like that. 17, 15 minutes, something like that. Yeah, I could literally power little short trips to my neighborhood market off of solar. Easy. I think they say that the Tesla uses about a mile per 300 watt hours. So if you got 1,000 watt hours, you could get about 3 miles of driving. I feel like that's accomplishable. Again, I'm a micromanaged kind of guy in terms of that kind of stuff. I don't mind like microtransactions and winning in that capacity, which I think is interesting. But yeah, I'm weird. But let's see. Okay, I talked about this. We saw that. I just want the ability to use all day long when solar panels are connected. I don't even care about overnight. Yeah, that's pretty much where my mind is always. It's because having such smaller power stations, it was just like, man, I could power this load during the day, and that's dope. And then eventually, as I continue to grow and get different power stations, I start to be able to go a little longer into the night. Now I'm getting to the point where I could kind of go overnight with some of my usage, which is a dope feeling. Yeah, we'll jump into the bill in a second. That's going to be cool. Look what you're creating down there in Texas. Oh, love what you're creating down there in Texas. Grant Acres, have you checked out some of his content? That's what's up. Like, I'd like to run a small water heater during the day to heat the greenhouse at night, but I'll need a heater for 150 watts or less, under 100 watts, if you want to run a humidifier. That's interesting. I am paying 11 cents per kilowatt. So yeah, you just running a ton of stuff at your house. That's actually pretty good. 11 cents. That's pretty good. So you living a dream over there, man. Even with a fort, man, that you must use a ton of power. I wonder, do you think your house is insulated well? Right. $500 at 11 cents. Yeah, that's a lot. But I feel like he buying all that stuff to cover it. It's probably a situation where there's some things in your house that run that don't need to run, but it's just the conveniences of life. Like I live a very simple life, but I can't imagine being one of those people who has like TVs in every room, game consoles in every room, kids playing the game consoles all day, people watching TV all day, cable boxes, DVRs, running constantly. uh it can become a lot, stereo systems, Bluetooth speakers, Amazon Echoes, listening to all your conversations, and reporting back to Obama directly. Oh man. I always tell my wife, Obama's listening, babe. Oh, he's listening. Be careful. um yeah, fun times. But to be fair, I'm not in Texas. I'm basing it out on Colorado and Missouri. Gotcha. I don't know. I didn't know you could make AC power directional. That's interesting. I hope that you can't. That's weird to me. I feel like I could really like hurt myself if I wasn't. It's very strange. It's very strange. I'm gonna try and figure something out soon on it. But it that little, I think that little piece is not working the way that it should in terms of breaking the current. I've learned and done so much in the last year. It's crazy. I'm hooked. I love having control of my power source and seeing my electric bill drop. One day it will be zero. That's gonna be cool. Does Texas have a winter rate and a summer rate? That's a great question. Does anybody who pays their power bill and pays attention to it, do you have a winter rate and a summer rate? Do you have seasonal rates? Because I've never heard of that. We do not have them here in PA. But Satire is like, yeah, it's weird that you don't. When you empty your power station, is she? Don't it affect your battery not holding charge longer? Okay. This is an interesting one. It's not supposed to. One, with LifePo having so many cycles, the first answer is who cares? The second thing is, it has always been my understanding. I am not an engineer. I'm going off of the likes of the Hobotex, the Will Prouses, just saying that my understanding is that the BMS is not supposed to allow your battery to go down to zero in these power stations. The power stations typically leave like a 10% reserve, which has always been shared. That's why you don't get 100% or a higher percent of battery capacity out of your battery. Now, in some situations, when people do get high capacity out of their battery, in terms of like the 90s and stuff like that, typically what they do is they're underrating their batteries. And I don't know why we haven't gotten to a space where everybody just underrates their batteries so that you can get the full watt hours that they promise. I don't understand it. But yeah, going down to zero impacts the battery. But I think I like to think of it this way. And I've talked about this before, but this idea that your tennis shoes, we all kind of grew up, a lot of us at least grew up, where when you had your school shoes, you had to get out of your school shoes and wear your play shoes after work. But the shoes are made to be worn. But my thing is like, you would get a certain amount of use out of your battery, period. But if you go easier on your battery, you'll get more use out of your battery. That's kind of how I understand it. But it's made to do those cycles. And according to the purveying knowledge of a cycle is a full 100 to 0. 100 to 0. If it's 100 to 50, that's not a full cycle. You have to go the full 1000 watt hours of a 1000 watt hour battery. That's my understanding. I don't know that I've ever heard a battery electrical engineering person say that, but I've heard people who have been intentional about this stuff say it, and I kind of believe it. So I don't worry about using my battery down to 0. But interesting thing, I think the Oupes Mega 2 is not managing that very well, because I've had issues where when that thing goes down to 0, it gives an error. So I don't know what their BMS is doing, but it's not doing something well, in my opinion. Who am I but a guy who uses his power stations every day? But I know if I let that dip die, I've had issues with it where it does not want to charge really fully until I leave it on there for a while. And that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day, where I have to kind of test a little bit more to be more intentional about the impacts that it's having. But it's not necessarily looking good for that power station for how I use it. I don't know, man. I'm confused by it, but I'm gonna keep kind of banging on it. Most power stations shut off before they get too low, so they shouldn't be damaged, right? I wish I could trade my Blue Reddies for a Delta, since they have the restore power after dying now. Facts. Yeah, most people aren't driving 300 plus miles at a time. Range anxiety is silly, and Tesla has a pretty good charging network now. Stop for lunch and keep going. I don't like the idea of having to stop for lunch. I'm not that kind of guy. If I could work my days and not take a lunch break, I get your point, but I would be more so like charge when you get home, even if you have to charge overnight. I'm also a big fan of still having a combustion based engine, because you can't have, I feel like if any person, for the most part, exceptions are always there. But if you already have an ICE or internal combustion engine, and you buy another car and that car is not an EV, I almost feel like that's silly. It literally costs you 30% less to run an EV than it is to run an internal combustion engine. And I just learned within the last like 5 years or so that, much like our light bulbs, they waste a lot of power. Before we went to the LEDs and all that, they wasted a lot of power generating heat. And I feel like combustion engines waste a lot of your power doing that whole thing where it generates power. So it's like 60% of the power or something like that that you use when you drive with gas is just wasted. It's you don't use it really. So imagine how much we pay for gas only to have all of that money just be like, not really. It's crazy. All right. Yeah, that's what kills me. My Tesla has a range of 300 miles, charging stations everywhere in Houston now, and building more everywhere. A lot of places allow you to charge for free, like Kohl's. That's interesting. I would never count on free charging, and I know you wouldn't either with all that stuff you got at your house, but it seems like that stuff is very, very telling. Vampire power, like when you use a thermal camera, you see the heat put off by smart speakers and realize how much power they waste. All those things, yeah. It's pleasing. Thank you, battery video. I've been trying to make a battery video for years. I fell in love with the 1 or 2 videos you've done already. Mr. Something, the name slips my mind. Swimming pool equipment consumes a lot of power. It takes a lot to keep that water clean and blue. No TXU. My provider doesn't. Oh, okay. No union. No seasonal power thing. Doesn't have over a season rate because Texas doesn't have a winter. I ain't mad at that. My understanding is that they are rated for how much capacity they have between the safe minimum voltage and maximum voltage. Battery capacity is real, but none of our inverters are 100% efficient. What you doing, baby?
Trying to wake it down. She ain't waking up. She sleeping.
I feel like pick her butt up. She gonna be grumpy, that's for sure. But she won't be popping in our room at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning trying to hang out. Heck, now in Texas, the utility company offers a program which is a nominal annual rate all year long. Rolls eyes. Yeah, that's crazy. I got on one of those plans here. They had like a all you can eat. And I tried it out in preparation for the winter because we were running a lot of space heaters at one point. And I was just like, let me just see how it was. But you had to use a minimum of 700 kilowatt hours, and I never really. It's rare that I get above that much. I typically sit at about 400 or 500.
Where they come out, and then in the middle, those are like
Okay, one right here. No variable. I found the temp effect. The temps affected on hot days. I can imagine that. My DIY 100 amp 12 volt lithium batteries with Victron MPPT controllers. I have built 4 wireless monitoring and an audible alarm. ALZR. Okay. Yes, we have the annualized bill thing too. I'd rather just have a high bill for 4 months and a lower bill for the rest of the year instead of the same bill every month. Yeah, I think they kind of get over on. Most people don't know how much power they use, so they kind of get over on you a little bit there. Only stop for lunch if you're driving all day. So if you're a road warrior, I guess stop for lunch is inevitable. I get that. That makes sense. So a hybrid is the best of both worlds. Yeah, it seems that way. A plug-in hybrid, according to Will, which I like that logic, because hybrids, I don't necessarily pretend to know how they work. Me and Setai have had conversations about this where I think one of the Priuses was a device that it was an electric vehicle, but it had a generator inside of it. At least that's what he tells me. So it had like a gas generator in it that its sole purpose was used to charge the batteries of the device. I think the hybrids that are a little bit different now. Now the Prius Prime has something similar to that. I looked into the Prius Prime when it first came out, which was probably 2-3 years ago. I don't remember all of those details, but so some of the hybrids up to a certain what was it? I think it's up to a certain like RPM or mile or acceleration. It was electric. And then after you did a certain thing, it began to like use some of the gas, and it's an interesting thing. I would love to have a hybrid in any capacity, but they cost so much more. But as I said earlier, it's a lot of times worth it to spend that money up front on batteries or a more eco-friendly situation because you save that money over time. But as is a thing with anything here in America, and I only speak about America because I live here. I don't study other economies. I don't study this economy, just to be honest. But access to the money to buy the stuff that'll save you money in the long run is always a problem, right? So that's why people will lean more towards buying a cheap gas generator versus spending 10 grand on, an EcoFlow system, which is really not ideal in any capacity, because if you can take how easy it is to set up all-in-ones with those batteries now with the breakers built in, and it's just much easier to do. Like, what's the inverters are probably about $1,000, and I'm being generous, and the battery's about 1,500 for the 5 kilowatts, so 3,000, 3,500 for $1,000. You could get a serious system that backs up your home with battery power. And then people will be like, yeah, but I could go to Home Depot and get a generator for, $400, $200, $300, or whatever they are. And I'm like, okay, but it's gas, it's moving parts, it's maintenance, it's reoccurring, starting it up to make sure that it's still functioning. I got rid of my gas mower. Well, it stopped working, but I did not buy a gas mower because I didn't want to have to deal with that. One, it wasn't my particular skill set. I mean, changing oil and spark plugs is not my particular thing, and I ain't ashamed to say it. But I got a corded lawnmower, and when my corded lawnmower stopped working, I got a battery powered lawnmower, Ego. So that's I feel like that stuff makes sense. You just, if you got to save up to do it, you got to save up to do it. If you got to pay a little more to finance a hybrid, then I think that's what we'll have to do. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm leaning with things. What is the cost per mile on a hybrid these days? I've never actually looked at the cost per mile on a hybrid, period. So I don't even know what the baseline that off of. Hybrid is better. You save a lot of gas. Hybrid is better than gas. I don't know if hybrid is necessarily better than electric, but it's the best of both worlds. So you have options. So I dig that. My 100 amp with Victron tells you everything about your battery. Okay, I had to read that out because there's a lot of abbreviations and what is it? Antonyms? Anagrams? I don't know what it is. I can charge my Chevy Bolt for $12 at home if the battery was completely dead. Winter range is 160 miles. Summer range is 250 to 300 miles. That is I love this comment. I'm glad it's up on the screen. It will live on forever in this live stream instead of me just reading it. That's pretty crazy. $12. Whereas like if he had to fill up a traditional comparable gas joint, it would probably be about $45 to fill that up. So it's just, that's what as I've done the math, it just seems like everything I land on is just about 60 to 70% cheaper to have an electric vehicle. Yeah, I'm sure it's not the Prius, but the Prius Prime, I think, has something similar to that, but it's not quite that idea. But don't quote me on that. I don't quite remember. Yeah, it's still plenty of miles. I wish I could find a cheaper EV. And I'm not saying I'm looking for it because I don't have the money in this particular moment. But I wish I could find like a cheaper. We also don't have the space. But a cheaper EV with shorter range. I detest the way a Nissan Leaf looks, but it was a compelling idea. Like Darvin Orvin, she bought a Nissan Leaf and it has like not so great range. But again, you know what I mean? You're going 7-8 miles. If it got like 100-mile range, it's like it's fine. Especially if you have solar and you could charge it from solar. That's fantastic. Peace. Have you done a long-term review of your experience with the Mega 2? I haven't had it long-term. I'm considering getting one. I currently have a Jackery 500 and the Blue Eddy EB70. What I will say is the Mega 2 is a fantastic deal. It's an immensely capable device, but I'm having issues with it where when it dies, it's always giving me error messages. And the error messages are typically something around the line of a single battery and the joint has a low voltage, or the battery pack has a low voltage. And I feel like your BMS is supposed to protect these things from having low voltages. It should not be getting down to 7 to 0%. And then now all of a sudden I have a voltage problem. But what do I know? I just know that most power stations don't behave in this way. I think Wayne was telling me that his anchors were weird too. He couldn't let his anchor devices get down to being dead because once they went to dead, they wouldn't charge up again. He had multiple issues with them. I don't understand now. I'm very confused. I feel like I sound like Solar Will right now. Because I'm having all of these problems with these power stations. And I sent Will a message on Instagram because I remember early in his power station review days, he's always been a DIYer, but there's a particular stint where he was doing a lot of power station reviews. And he was just saying, like, I'm always having problems with these power stations. And I think that in a lot of ways we are kindred because one, I want to use my power stations because that's just how I'm built. He likes to test his power stations and use them because he wants to know if they have longevity. Because him being a cat who lived in a van on the side of the road, he wanted his stuff to work. Setai is very similar in his logic where he just wants stuff to work. He doesn't want to have to worry about it. He loves automation and so on and so forth. But I think that Will ran into a lot of problems because he was using his power stations a lot. I think I'm running into a lot of problems because I'm using my power stations a lot. And it's like, what do you expect me to do with these power stations? Yes, I'm going to put 600 watts of solar on it if I can, if they can take in 600 watts of solar. Yes, I'm going to put, 2 8-amp panels on it if we know that a power station will max out the amps and cut off the amps, but it can take in up to 15 amps. I don't know what these companies what they expect me to do, but I'm doing it, and these power stations just stop working on me. And it's not a lot of them, but I'm having issues with them. And I just feel like I'm not complaining. I think it's par for the course with somebody who uses power stations like me. And I'm also very intentional with like uh getting the most out of them. I'm not like using them over a few days. They get used every day. This Browie with the built-in solar panel, if it's sunny outside, I'm putting it out every day. And it has an extra 100-watt panel hooked up to it every day. The All Powers has 2 panels in parallel on it. The Super Vito Man has a single 400-watt Bouge RV panel on it. The Oupes has, man, let me circle back to something. I told you at the beginning of this live stream I was traveling, and the Oupes has built-in Wi-Fi on it. Also, the All Powers R1500 has built-in Wi-Fi on it. So I tried to be a little more strategic this time when I left, because being gone for a few days, all my power stations are going to get full because they have pretty decent sized solar arrays on it. So what I did was I hooked up a bunch of, I have about 4 batteries, 6, because I just got one from this company. That's a cool looking battery, by the way. 5, if I'm being realistic, because I'm sending Setite a battery. And so I tried to, I only have 3 battery chargers, but I tried to be intentional with putting my battery chargers on the power stations with the Wi-Fi. And then I use my switches, which I would typically use my switches on my deep freezer and my upright freezer. But when I travel, I plug those into the wall anyway. So I don't need to know when those are down. And I don't need to control them with power, because that's what I use those switches for. Those switches tell me when those fridges go down and lose power. So I know when to go down there and change them from one power station to the other, or plug them into the wall, or I can stagger them in running. Like if I have one running for a few hours, then I could turn that one off for an hour or two and then run the other one. I do kind of all kind of interesting things with those. Not a lot, but I could do it, and I have done it in the past. So I took those switches off. I put a couple of those switches on specific things on these power stations, so that because they are connected via Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi connectivity is fantastic. If you, especially for someone like me who's using my stuff all the time, I had them on Wi-Fi. Both of those devices have the stupid, can I stress how stupid it is, default, where when those power stations turn off, the Wi-Fi does not turn back on with them, which I think is incredibly stupid. Why? So the good thing about the All Powers typically is that when you're running off of AC, it does not deplete fully. It turns off AC at 5%. And maybe that's the way in which they manage the BMS a little bit better, or the batteries a little bit better via the BMS, because they won't even let you drain it so low with the AC, but you can drain it low with DC. DC will continue to work. But what I find that is useful about that is, because the device will never go below 5%, the AC will just turn off. If DC is not on, then it's not really doing anything. The vampire draw is not that bad. The device will stay on, so the Wi-Fi will stay on. That wouldn't be a problem if it turned off and it came back on. It should come back on in the state that the Wi-Fi was in, or it should default to having the Wi-Fi on and then turn off with a button. But I think the best setting is to have it default to the state that the Wi-Fi or Bluetooth was in from the beginning. So if it was on, leave it on. If it was off, leave it off. So I could peek in on those devices, see that they were approaching full. I have like 2 or 3 batteries hooked into this, maybe like 1 power station. I only had like 4 switches. 3 of the switches were used on power stations or power situations. 1 switch was being used on my lamp. So when I saw those batteries approaching full, I could basically turn on those AC switches, and then it would start to dump power into these 3 kilowatt hour total batteries. I thought that was pretty cool, because it allowed me to get more power in while I was away from home. But at some point during the process, the Mega lost connectivity, so I couldn't manage it anymore. But as I was leaving, and I'm going to be honest with y'all, I left my house with these batteries charging. because I knew they was approaching full, and that was the only reason why I kind of found comfort in that. But I wasn't super comfortable with leaving this stuff charging and not being home. I know LFP is not, what do they say, combustible or volatile, and that'll explode and all that jazz, but you could still have an issue. Who knows? You know, come back home and your house is burned down, you know, God forbid. But I left some things charging, and those switches gave me peace of mind so that I could turn that charging stuff off. So the Mega 2 right now is dead. The Mega 2 should not be dead. It's supposed to turn back on from charging with solar. It is hooked up into two 300-watt panels in series. I held off because I had 6 panels that I was going to put into the Oupes. It was going to be 3 in series, 40, 80, 120, 3 more in series, basically coming down into parallel, an 1800-watt solar string to beast mode into that one, because the thing is a beast. It has a 25 or 2600-watt inverter. It can pretty much run my entire house using both sides of my male-to-male cables. I feel like I'm giving y'all a lot of information, but it's a super capable device. So having all of that power coming into it was going to be ideal. I string up all my solar panels. I have footage of this. I have videos that'll come out eventually as I get caught up. 1800 watts going in, 400 watts going into the all powers, a total of 2200 watts. 2.2 kilowatt hours of power coming into my basement to ultimately run my home. First Oupes dies, stops charging, gets an error code, doesn't recover, email them that like, hey, record a video of it not working. So they do that to me too, not just you guys who buy the products. They want to see what the issue is. So I send them the issue, no green light on the side. They see that it's dead. They send me a replacement. So when it was down, after about 3-4 days of not getting any solar power into anything, y'all know how much that bothers me, how solar greedy I am. I went out there and I had to reconfigure everything. I had to take 2 panels, put them in parallel, 2 more panels, put them in parallel, 2 more panels, put them in series. The series panels went into the Nicron. The 2 parallel panels went into the Duran, I believe, and my Afiri. I had to pull my Afiri down off of the ledge, or maybe it went into the Super Vito Man. The Nicron stops working. The interesting thing about the Nicron is that it can take in 95 volts of solar, but it's on a 50-foot cable that is 12 gauge. It's not 10 gauge. So I essentially couldn't just put that in parallel because the wire was too long. I think it was going to be a problem. So I had to separate those 2 panels out. So now I have 2 separate panels going into 2 separate power stations, which ended up being the Yalanis 1500 joint and then the Duran Ener, or the Duran. So I did all of that with the Oupes to get rid of a lot of cables because I only really had like 2 main solar arrays coming into my garage. I had some lanyard stuff going on, but that's like bonus stuff that'll live there, but it's not necessary to power my house. So back to the whole travel aspect of things, I get the Oupes replacement back. Things are looking fine. I have a few scares with error codes, but it eventually continues to recover. And I say, you know what? Because I'm leaving, I'm going to leave these panels the way that they are instead of putting all of this power into the Oupes. Because when you put all of that power back into the Oupes, it was going to get full super quick anyway. Now, granted, I had the situation where I got the Wi-Fi connectivity and I got the smart switches on there to charge up batteries and stuff like that. But the Wi-Fi turned off halfway through the trip. So I'm glad that I left those panels into the Uranus, which is a 1500 watt or 1200 watt hour capacity dip. And then Durand is a 2000 watt hour. So I came back home. Ultimately, I expected to come back home to 4, let's call it 5.5 kilowatts of power stored up in just my power stations. And then you add another 1, 2, 3 into the batteries because they were all in battery chargers. So that's about 8 kilowatt hours that I was going to net off of me being away from home, just in that situation that I'm talking to you about. But I come home to find the Oupes dead. The all powers was full. That's not a part of that 8 kilowatts. That would give it about 10. The all powers was full. I had the all powers hooked up to a power station, which is the GoFort P15. That one is about 1100 watt hours. So between the two of them, that's 2 extra kilowatt hours. But the Oupes over the last few days, the last couple days, has not been charging because it's dead. Now, I don't know if it's dead because it's broken or it's dead just because of the low voltage warning being on for so long and then it's just cut out. But I just feel like this device, and this is the second one. Now, I don't know if they're sending me 9 new units or like refurbished used units that could have cell problems in the batteries. Or I don't know if the one was a fluke and then the one that they sent me was a refurbished one. It didn't seem refurbished, but what do I know? But I just know right now that thing is down there dead and it should be full right now. And not only should it be full, the whatever batteries that were hooked up to it should probably be full as well. And maybe those are. I could check the voltage on them at some point. But that was the whole thing. So I was glad I left those panels because, and I'll talk about this in the videos, but ultimately, instead of having the 6 panels going into the Oupes, what I did is I moved my 400 watt because I ultimately had 400 watts and then 1800, or I guess 400 watts and then 1800. I took the 400 watt panel, put it in a different whole power station. And I took the 1800 watts and I put 600 into the all powers, which used to have 400. And then I put 600 into the Oupes with the intention of putting the other 600 into the Oupes. And then I would have a more balanced situation with 1200 watts going into one, 400 watts going into the other. And that's a good situation to be in because the right side of my panel doesn't use very much power unless it's the microwave or the washer and dryer. My washer is electric, my dryer is gas. The left side of my panel does not use a whole lot of power, but it uses power pretty much all day. So it's about a 200 watt load all day. So that's a better balance. I could have, I won't get into that because that complicates things. But I could have the Oupes basically power both sides of everything and just have the all powers feed into the Oupes. Life is so complex for your boy, guys. It's just so complex. I tell you, let me see what y'all comments is talking about, man. It's a lot. Is it the battery self-heating or because of climate control there's a volt? Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure about that stuff. You are converting all your appliances into 12 volts as much as possible. Like my freezers, buying a 12 volt refrigerator, also running all of this with off-grid power. Now, with you being in a 48 volt situation, that seems like a peculiar choice. I don't necessarily have an opinion on it. I don't have the knowledge set to have an opinion on that, but that's an interesting choice. That's what I don't like about my 70 Mi. If I forget to watch the charge, when it hits 0%, it's dead. I have to use the car charger and charge it to about 5%, and then using AC, charge it to 100. That's crazy. That's a good caveat to notice though, but that's crazy. So I'm not going to read that. I have a Hyundai hybrid. It comes on when you drive. Low speeds, I have the first one that doesn't plug in. 35 miles is good for an all-wheel drive. I love it, but I lease it. So that when the warranty ends, okay. I'm just gonna skip that because I need to get caught up. Jay, what's happening? Good to see you. Hey, there you go. Smash the like button, y'all. Oh, I really want to, let me take a moment. I would like to encourage you guys who have the desire and the capability. It's a few people, and it's fine that it's not everybody. But this is the Cash App right here. When you guys give and support on Patreon, it makes things a lot easier for me to be kind to the community members, but me to also grab certain things that can bring value to the community as well. And it also, you know, it's a few coins in my pocket if you appreciate the content. Some people appreciate the content in different ways. Some people give coins, some people give likes and comments. I appreciate all of it, but I also want you guys to be mindful of the fact that that is the Cash App handle right there. I have like Venmo, PayPal, and all of that jazz. I don't ever want this to come off as begging, but I do want to be mindful of the fact that giving to the channel and supporting creators, if I happen to be one of those creators, then yay me, it always helps them. I heard Pecron is a good option at a good price. Yeah, Pecron is coming a long way from what it started, and I dig it. I just have two devices that stopped working on me. One had to be replaced, and now this other one stopped working. I have to test it, but I haven't made the time to test it again just to see what's what here. But I must admit, I'm totally impressed by the Titan. That is weird. I don't know. I've never been impressed by the Titan. That's not necessarily true. Once all of this other stuff started coming out, the Titan looked less and less impressive to me. The Titan is one of those things. It's kind of like that high Solus or the Apollo stuff. It's like it's massive, and that's not really my type of hype. They just seem like they do a lot, and they're made for people who take their power very seriously. I take my backup power seriously, but not very seriously. I don't know. I don't know how to put it into words, but the Titan is it's an interesting device. It's an interesting device. It's super heavy. It's a little bit limited. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Why are you impressed with the Titan? I'd be curious to hear that. Okay, so you're saying that's why I use Victron expensive controllers. They should just change their name to expensive. Victron is synonymous with expensive. On my DIY generators, Bluetooth and wireless or remote app, I can monitor them and turn them off from anywhere while I'm gone. It's awesome. I dig that. That's what's up. I want to get that Victron Smart Shunt. My solar assistant estimates my 2 batteries pretty well, but I like a true measure. How much is the Smart Shunt? All those power stations have a common denominator, correct? Yeah, a guy who uses them. Sure. Cracker, what's up? What's up, boss? Good to see you. It's all good. No apologies necessary. Okay, cool. You guys haven't had much to say. That's what's up. I have 12 solar generators and 48 volt larger systems. Okay, so you got like a good mixture of being able to provide power, to produce power, and then put that power into power stations that can give power to 12 volt, or you could, you know, transform it to 12 volt. I get it. I understand. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, does it do that on low draw or high draw? BMSs, I imagine this is about the Mega 2 possibly having issues with dying. Nothing about me is high draw, especially for an extended amount of time. The highest draws that I have in my house are my microwave, my air fryer, and during the summer it'll be air conditioners, but those aren't even really that high. So microwave doesn't run constantly, air fryer doesn't run constantly. So if my Mega is running my house, the left side of my panel is about 200 watts. If it's running the right side of my panel and my furnace heat is not on, it's like 40 watts. And that's pretty much a couple of Yi cameras and maybe like a fan or a couple of lights in the back end of my home. So nothing about me is high power usage at all. I sit at about a certain amount of power. So nothing is putting a big strain on that device. It's very strange that it does that. And then I have to kind of waste power charging it back up to get it into a working state. So it's becoming yet another power station that I thought I was going to be able to be like hands off of, but I have to manage it. Sucks. I don't know if I just got two bad ones. I don't know. It's weird. It's versatility. I got it. Okay. So I got the let me just go get it. If my audio breaks up, y'all just forgive me. But I'm going down into my basement to get the Grecell. I'm gonna move through here a little bit until I get a little lower. I feel like the audio should still be picking up here. I'm just looking at this freaking Oupes dead right now like a bum. Okay, I'm in my garage. It's funny. I can't even tell if the Grecell is full or not. Which it should be. Holy moly. I just want to show you guys the Grecell. Because it's a cool looking little project. Grecell that I had, I was talking with them about it, and they were like, yeah, can you make sure you put the video out swiftly? Because the last time we worked together, it took a very long time, and they are absolutely right. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to make this a priority for you guys. This is the Grecell. But look at it. The screen is broken. I really like the size of this thing. It's a mid-range device, but it's pretty much the size of, it's heavy. Catch my breath here. It's heavy, but it's like the size of a expansion battery. But the screen is broken. Look, check it out. So I can't see anything on it. Okay, that's not bad. It gets pretty bright too. It's an interesting little design. Let me see if I can show you the side. Look at that form factor. It has these little flaps that I'll try and show you. And it has two of those. And then it has DC input and output on the joint. But I can't tell. I charged it up from the Yolanis, which was full. What's the day? Today's Saturday. Yeah, we got back yesterday. So I imagine the Oupes has been dead since about Thursday when the Wi-Fi went off. That one came while I was away, and it's a cool little device. It charges from Anderson. It has a 2200 watt inverter. It maxes out at 600 watts of solar, has a 60 volt input limit. What else? But it's only like maybe 1200 watt hours of capacity. So that's why I call it a mid-range device, but it has a 2200 watt inverter. That is important to me because now that my Duran is back in terms of like working, because it broke completely on me, I had to have it switched out. That one is working again. That one has a 2000 watt inverter. The Oupes has a 2500 watt inverter. My AC200P has a 2000 watt inverter. And now the Duran has a 2200 watt inverter. I have 4 devices out of maybe like 9 bigger devices that have 2000 watt inverters. The All Powers has an 1800 watt inverter, which is nice, but I find that I think it's probably adjusting the voltage to compensate for my microwave, because my microwave takes forever to warm up food, which I think will make an interesting video topic if I can get to it. And the Oupes 1800 is supposed to have an 1800 watt inverter, but I feel like it's having an issue as well, which I think I need to reach out to them about. But that's it. Vito Man has a 1500. Yolanis has a 1600. The Oupes is 1800, but it's wishy-washy. I have like another device, the LoomPal is 1200. So, but yeah, I got a bunch of like good watt-hour capacity devices, but they don't have good inverters. And the reason why I need to have more devices that have good inverters, because I need to have more devices that have good inverters that I can actually trust. Like the AC200P, that inverter is pretty much golden. The Oupes is good too. The Oupes Mega 2 to be specific. The All Powers, the voltage is a little weird. The Duran, I think the voltage is kind of weird. It might be 110 on that one, but it still can handle most things. Like I think my dryer doesn't error out on it when I try to run it. My dryer can error out on some other things, even though it's only like using like 500 watts. That amount of power that it needs to get that dryer barrel spinning is a lot, and it craps out on a lot of stuff. It doesn't on the AC200P, and the Oupes Mega doesn't. So the real tale of the tape is whether or not the Grecell's 2200 watt inverter is the real deal or not. And I'm going to certainly find out. That's for sure. Yesterday is yet. Hold on. Will Prowse did a new video about the lifetime new lithium battery with built-in BMS and heater, I believe. Yeah, I did see that. I wasn't going to watch it because I wasn't really interested in the video. But I'll check it out eventually. I wasn't pressed to watch it, I should say. Are there any solar generators you recommend for someone living on a fixed income? Well, the Nicron is affordable, but it depends on what your fixed income is. And I think that anything is possible if you save up long enough. And also, if you have decent credit, Amazon has a credit card that allows you to make 6 months payments for no interest. And then there's also like different companies that allow for you to, I guess you mean a fixed budget? I get what you mean when you say fixed income, but if you have wiggle room in your income, then you just got to save. You know what I mean? Just, But the Nicron is about the best bang for buck power station that you can find. It's about $300 some odd, and it gets you a lot for that price. You get a lot. But I got one in my garage that's not working. But people love that Nicron E600. It's a fantastic little device. Is the company sending you another one, or did you contact them yet? Okay, I got you. I have not contacted them. I literally just cracked it open today, actually. So I need to email them, and they won't get it until Sunday night. I'm on that kind of income. Just got to find one with like cool features, save up, watch for sales, and go for it. Yeah. Boom. There you go. Hey, I can. What's happening? Amazon also uses a firm if a firm approves you. There you go. So yeah, I mean, it's about how much you can afford more than the fixed nature of your income. But if you don't have wiggle room in your income, then I don't think anything is going to appeal to that. So it becomes more about your specific situation and how long you're willing to wait. And realistically, it's really about how much you need one. I mean, we all like to be power secure, but some people don't lose power rarely. You know what I mean? Who knows? The tide could change in a minute, but because here's the thing, something that's affordable, I don't, what is it really gonna do for you in the grand scheme of things in terms of what power security brings you? I mean, it's nice to be able to, like Katie's Camp Kitchen said, run TV and internet for a few more hours. And that's very important. That type of sanity and enjoyment is extremely important. But budget friendly, cost friendly power stations are not going to save the day. They'll just provide you a little comfort. So if it's on a fixed income, then what I mean, it's going to give you some level of something. Let me think about that for a second, because another thing is a way to just get the power itself, because the battery storage is the thing that starts to cost you money. So a big thing when I was starting out, being on not having a whole lot of income to spend on a power station, the one thing that was important for me is capturing the sun and then using that power. And it wasn't about nighttime, but it was just like, man, in the daytime, could I keep my internet running? Could I use my computer and charge my computer up? Could I make sure my phone is powered in an emergency situation? Those things are very important, right? So, there's power stations out there for as cheap as like $99. And I mean, like, Ellie Kanta has one for about $99. The Bourgeois Juice Go might be maybe 200, which I wouldn't buy that if that was my first device that I was looking to get a little bit of security. I would probably go maybe EB3A. All Powers R600. To me, the All Powers R600 is the best, but the fan is disgustingly loud on the super nice one. And then the just kind of like normal $200 power station, the fan is much better. I've never even heard it, I don't think. But then the solar is limited. But realistically, if you're just starting out, the solar being limited is the least of your concerns. Also, Alan, I have a video of the Pecron on my channel. You should check it out just to give you a little bit of a baseline as it relates to how I feel about it. What's up, Andrew? Sitting here chilling, listening to some off. And that's what's up, man. I appreciate that. Thanks for hanging out. Okay, Affirm lets you choose monthly payment arrangements. That's what's up. If I were on a fixed income and was willing to break some rules, I get some solar panels and plug. Yeah, I feel like somebody who's just starting out, that's a bit tough. Unless Alan is super savvy. Won't help you with power outages, but will lower your bill. That's an interesting idea. Not necessarily a new one. I don't want it to come off as though I haven't heard that idea before. We talk about that all the time. I've considered it very often. What did I run across? You can use, wait, hold on. You can use USB lights that use low energy so you don't have to spend a lot of money. Yeah, it really depends on what you're after. If you just don't want to be in the dark, that's easier. If you want to have, yeah, it's like when we think about the back to the basics aspect, your laptop has a battery in it. Actually, Will did a video some time ago about solar power without a battery. And I wonder if I could revisit that, because Xstar makes an 8mm to USB joint. And then a lot of these solar panels have USB-C ports in them. So you could use those panels and charge up a little battery bank, something like this, to hold some power for you in emergencies. You can even find these joints. I've gotten really good deals on battery banks over the years on the marketplace. Some maybe new but not used, like open but not really hammered or something like that. I found some unopened. I don't think I've ever purchased any that were just like plain because the price is never right for me. But you can get into that for some power storage, and then you could just get a panel, and a panel, you know, a 50-watt panel, 100-watt panel. They're getting super cheap. They're like $100. That could give you some peace of mind. If you want to tell us more about your situation, maybe we could help out a little bit better. Like what are you trying to accomplish, and then how much money? And also, this is not something you can necessarily count on, but I do give away power stations on the live streams. It's a random comment type of thing. I haven't given one away in a while, but I'm kind of getting there. I have a lot of things in flux right now with needing to make videos. And once I make the videos, then those power stations get kind of out of pending and into permanent homes. So then that allows me to more effectively look at my situation. Okay, see what kind of power I got in. See if I really need this power or am this power station, or am I just using it because I have it? And if I get to a point where I'm just using it because I have it, then I'll typically give it away. Or if I get something that is better and replaces that particular one, and I feel like securing it, then I can kind of let power stations go more easily. I just found a thread where Oupes says they do not recommend discharging using while charging, something about voltage going too high or low. That's interesting. Now, my take on that is I think that's just them covering their butts. Oh yeah, I do have a Gulu. That Gulu's nice. That Gulu has come in handy. I think that's just them covering their butts. The devices are made to be charged and discharged at the same time. Now, you take a company like Rock Pals, who only gave you charging and discharging at the same time with the DC and not the AC. See, they would have to explain more of that to me, because I feel like I want to know what do they mean? Because you enable a device to do it. Why do you enable a device to do it if it's a problem? My understanding is that it should not necessarily be a problem. If anybody has any input or theories on that, I'm open to them, because a lot of these power stations will say they don't recommend it. But I don't know what you're supposed to do with that, fam. Like, realistically, I ain't never heard no all-in-one say that. Oh man, fans that run off of USB, I started using it at first just to keep a small power bank. Yeah, USB fans are really useful. A lot of times when I'm sitting in here in the summer, as long as I got some air blowing on my face, I feel a lot better than if I didn't have that air. But I mean, many of us who've been around for a while, we know the power of a fan in the midst of not wanting to run your AC to keep your power bill low. You get a lot of heat charging and discharging at the same time. I almost, to be honest, man, I almost kind of feel like, so what? Now, for me, I don't live in a particularly hot climate. A lot of my power stations that get absolutely hammered are in my basement. My basement is never as warm as upstairs, even in the winter. I mean, even in the summer. But maybe, yeah, I don't know, man. I'd much rather throw a fan, an extra fan to get airflow moving, than not charge and discharge at the same time. If it's for one person, personal neck coolers are amazing. All I can remember when I hear that is the Sharper Image days of the thing you kind of put around your neck and you dump a little water in. I happened to come upon one of those in very mysterious circumstances, is what I say. I didn't take it. Maybe I did. I don't think I took it. It was definitely a bait car situation where I was not involved, but I was aware of what happened, and I ended up with this neck thing, trying it out, and it didn't work. But that was, 30 years ago, 28, something like that. Cost like $200, but they work so well to keep you cool in a warm room during yard work, sleeping. Most efficient way to cool. You're going to have to send me a link one day. I have to look exactly at that. You may have sent me a link, but I always think about that little sharper image thing that didn't work particularly well. It's 1015. The new ones have Peltier coolers. You work really well. The sharper image ones are crap. Facts. Always been crap. Will probably always be crap. USB ceiling fans save a lot of energy. Yeah, that's such a weird concept to me. USB ceiling fans. We talked about that before. I didn't find myself feeling compelled enough to try something like that. It just seemed like, I don't know about that one. But yeah, Byron is a USB. He's a USB guru out here in these streets. I haven't heard much from Alan, so maybe he's not around anymore. Alan, if you come back and watch this, or if you're still around, feel free to email me or message me somewhere. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Telegram, and I even have WhatsApp on a specific phone because I don't rock with WhatsApp like that. It's such a weird name. I never know how to. Anyway, stupid. Let's see here. A 199 watt Renogy or a 100 watt Renogy? And you're talking about solar panel? I would assume so. You know what's crazy about that? Either way, there's some 300 watt panels right now that are available unless they sold out and they got an update them. 300 watts available for like 135, brand new. So whenever I see a deal on a 100 watt panel and I'm compelled by it, I always remember like, man, I could get huge panels for so much less money for so much more power. But I also have power stations that could take in that. I feel like a lot of us in our particular journey may not necessarily have those bigger power stations. So if you have something like I don't know, the EcoFlow's gotten better, the Petgron's gotten better. They have higher voltage limits, so they can take in those 300 watt panels. But the EcoFlows, they can take in all those volts, which is nice for 100 watt panels, but it still maxes out at 220 watts. So that sucks. Okay, cool. Thanks for dropping the link. 100 watt Renogy. Yeah, I feel like at this point in how that technology is moving, $80 is not that great a deal. It's a good deal. Don't get me wrong for what we've been paying. But it's getting to the point where 100 watt panels should probably be costing about $60. That's just how I feel about it. I'm not saying I'm right, but if every now and then they go on sale for about $65, $67, and it all can be kind of made in the same factory in some capacity or another, that's kind of like what they should cost. Y'all all running out of battery up there?
Yeah, well, I ran out of battery yourself. I'm like 15 minutes later, I ran out of battery. I'm not like on my phone all the time, and then my brother got on my phone window, like in the middle of a race.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's
True.
how I was going to use the phone. Like, if they were in the race, they would pick up the phone.
Okay.
But I was 20%.
Okay. I'm in the, I can't just chat casually. I do want to tell you guys about a little tech blip that I've gotten into really quickly. I found this particular device very useful. Me and Setai have been kind of like testing and so on and so forth. This is a travel router by gli.net. I love travel routers. I always have. I have a couple of them around here. But I got this one recently because it can do tethering. And I reached out to the company. I joined their influencer program. I shouldn't say I joined it. I applied to their influencer program because I feel like these could be useful for preparedness situations, because what you can do is it does a lot of things. But if you've never heard of a travel router, I'll tell you about the practical implications as it relates to preparedness. If you have a cell phone that has the ability to provide wireless tethering, you can use something like this to plug your cell phone into and it can tether in a much better way. It'll take the cell phone data that you have available. There are a lot of questions surrounding this, but I'm going to put it out here anyway. It can take the data from your cell phone that's, as far as we know, a part of your hotspot allotment, and it can create like it can create a better wireless coverage situation because it has these antennas. The range is going to be better. One thing that I've gotten into with this is being able to take a cellular signal and then recreate a new cellular signal so that my phones and stuff can connect. But from a preparedness standpoint, the being able to connect your phone into this and create a wider range than your phone's hotspot can produce is a good look. Especially when electricity is down, it runs off of USB-C. Link, sure. Un momento, por favor. This one costs about $80, but they have one as cheap as $40. Let's see. I'll share the one I got. Let's share the more affordable one. Now, a cool thing that this does, we were just at an Airbnb recently. I have this program to have it can have up to 4 different SSIDs. I talked about this a little bit last time. And I programmed one of those SSIDs to be the same as my home SSID. And you could turn them on and off. So right now I have it in the off position because it has 4. Only one is turned on right now. But when we were traveling, I had like about 3 of them on. So I had one that was the same as my home network. And when I got to the Airbnb, my wife sent me the password and the username of their SSID. So I took this, powered it up, connected it to their hotspot, their wireless. And then this created a new wireless that had the same name as my home joint. So then all like 10 of our devices just connected up, and we were using the Airbnb's wireless. Whereas like before using something like this, and I've had something like this for a while, but before using something like this, we would typically just connect all of our devices. That's Roku's, that's phones, that's tablets, that's laptops, and all of that. We were connected to them manually. I wouldn't do that for my cell phone. Sorry, I smacked the mic. I typically run my devices off of my cell phone tether anyway, but my kids, they typically jump on wireless. So I have something like this. I have always had something like this. This is a very similar situation where it can repeat the Wi-Fi, but it can't be hooked up to your phone. That's one thing that this can do. My phone can be plugged directly into it via this cable, and then you turn on USB tethering, and then it'll start to broadcast that Wi-Fi. There's a couple different use cases I have for this. Maybe we'll talk about that at the end of another live stream, but because I've been on here for a while, I need to wrap it up. But this is cool. I like this. This particular one is the Barrel AX. I'll get a link for that one as well. I originally ordered the $60 one, but Setite made a good point. Me and Setite talk all the time. Setite made a good point about future-proofing these devices, because as you use them over time and you figure out cool stuff to do with them, sometimes the RAM and the storage, like the internal stuff, can become a limitation. So because this is such an integral part of my travels and my day-to-day life, being able to have a travel router, I decided to jump up from the $60 one to the $80 one to make sure that I'm as future-proof as possible. So Setai says this: next time my broadband goes down, I'm going to try that. The interesting thing about that as well is this device has the ability to, you can create a situation where you can set it up where your home internet is going into this as a, it gets complicated. It'll repeat the signal, and then you can have your cell phone in here too via this USB-A, and it could be set up to like load balance, which I don't know why you would want to do that with a cell phone, but you can also set it to failover. So I'll give you a real life example, then I'm gonna get out of here. Real life example for using this is, I took the Afiri, which is one of my mid-range power stations, 60 volt input limit, 1200 watt hour joint, maybe a 1500 watt inverter. The 60 volt input limit really kind of limits it in terms of what I could use it for. I'm swimming in 60 volt input limit power stations. That's kind of what I'm getting at here. Nice device, but I'm swimming in them. I've been plugging in, I used it to replace, I replaced my All Powers R600 with it, because there's a bigger watt hour capacity. So I've been running my internet off of there more often. But don't you know what I've been finding is that my internet is dropping out a lot more on that particular power station. I don't know why it's doing that. I'm not sure what's going on. But then now I put it back on my AC60, which is what it's typically on. Okay, so what we've been having is every now and then when we're watching TV, the internet will drop out. And I haven't been noticing it a whole lot, but my family has been telling me about it. And I'm like, man, that sucks. Is it dropping on everything? And I think it is. In this new fancy Verizon Fios router that I have, it takes about 2 minutes and 30 seconds to power back on and get our 5G networks back up. The 2.5 or the 2.4 gigahertz ones come up a little bit quicker. I think wired comes up faster than everything, but nothing is on wired. Now, I say all that to say, my wife is editing like a book or a journal or a devotional, I think, for her book. My wife wrote a book about fatherlessness. It's fantastic. It's funny because I don't like giving out personal information, but the reality steps in sometimes where it's like my wife is a published author. There's no way to share this information without you figuring out her first name, her last name, and I'm still not going to tell you. She wrote a book. Some of you know about this book. And she's been editing, and she was saying that the internet dropping down could be a problem for her as it relates to editing. So what I could do in theory is create a wireless situation where my Fios router will have an Ethernet cable come into the appropriate one of these, and then this will be set up to where it creates a separate SSID or a separate wireless setup. And then I could also put a phone in here and have that data come into this phone, that data from the phone come into here, and have it be a failover, so that when my router drops out and this device no longer senses network or internet coming from these Ethernets, it'll fail over to the cell phone data until that router comes back up and starts providing internet again. So then for a short time, she'll be connected to, let's just call my home's main router SSID. Let's call it Joe. What I could set her up is this will take Joe, extend it, and create a hotspot or a wireless thing called Jane. Jane will be the one she's connected to, but then Jane will be powered by Joe and my cell phone's network connectivity, so that it'll fail over. I hope all that makes sense. These devices are incredible. I love them. They're super versatile too. Super versatile. I mean, they've always been, but this one is better than all of the ones that I have, and that you could hook a phone up to it. Actually, I have this one as well. This is the RAV Power. This is more for like content creators, but it functions in the same way. You can take a Ethernet connection into here from like a hotel, or if you're visiting family or something like that, and they have wireless and you're gonna be there for a while, you could just take a Ethernet cable, plug it into this. This can already be configured to connect to your devices. And then you turn this on, and then this creates a hotspot that your devices can recognize. This thing will do the same thing. They're both travel routers, but this one has a specific benefit of having some backup functionality where you could pop in an SD card and have it backed up to a hard drive if you plug the hard drive into here. But anyway, fantastic stuff. I have a tech channel that I want to start that I just have not taken the time to start, but it's really a side project, and it's called Random Tech Videos. I don't even think it's live yet, but I want to start making like little videos about this kind of stuff because I think this is pretty cool. And I think I have a pretty interesting vantage point that will be useful to some people, but I don't expect a channel like that to grow super fast because the videos will not be in a specific niche, which is why I call it Random Tech Videos. So the whole premise is don't subscribe, just get the information you need and then go on about your business. But this is my contribution to the internet because I feel like sometimes I can't find videos on the things that I want to find. For example, set tight. I bought this other router from gli.net that I want to test out. It's basically a power bank, a travel router, and a cellular modem all into one. It is not cheap, but in the grand scheme of things, it costs about what it would cost to buy most of those devices separate. And it will possibly be a better solution for some of the scenarios that I have. So he was wondering how much power that power bank is going to give to his cell phone when it charges, because this one does not give it a whole lot of power and it's messing up a particular setup he's trying to have. All right, that's the tech time for the moment. If y'all don't have any more questions, but it doesn't seem like you do, I only see about 4 comments. We'll wrap it up. Any thoughts on the EMP protection? I would love to have a couple Faraday bags for like phones and stuff like that, but that's more so about killing signals going out of the phone so that Google and whatever is not tracking me all the time. That it's more about that than protection. Let me see what the rest of your question is. I've been looking at EMP shield, but it's very expensive and no way to tell if it even really works. The scenarios in mind would be nuke or solar flares. Yeah, I don't know. I don't get concerned about it too much. Because if something like that happened, man, realistically, it's like if everything else is shot, what good is it for you to have a few devices that still work? And I mean, I know that's practical, but I think just in the long run, we all got to start over. You just got a head start. I don't know. I could be wrong in that. Maybe I'm ignorant to that thing. An awesome book. Thanks, Sharon. Appreciate that. It is a good book. I like, look, I don't hold no punches. Her book, it's called Learning to Live Loved. If you want more of the information, I feel like be intentional and message me somewhere. Solarquestions at askive.com. I'm on Telegram, Facebook, and Instagram. If you want more information, her book is like, it's dope. The first half is an absolute page turner. It's about her journey to like just dealing with like the meeting of her father and that whole process, and dealing with that is just an interesting thing that I feel like a lot of people can relate to, especially in the Black community, because you know how that be, right? For those who are Black or grew up Black adjacent. Let's see. Some power stations block 5G routers if they're placed near them. You mean interference or just straight up blocks? Which is the best to maintain my phone at work? What do you mean? I have a solar bank in the bag? What does that mean? To maintain my phone at work. A power station? I was just talking about travel routers, so I don't know where you're going with that. I can. All right, you know what? I'll be in the chat for a second, but I'm gonna go ahead and wrap the live stream up. Y'all be beautiful, man. Thanks for hanging out with me and chatting as I ran my mouth. Hopefully, it was a cool one for you.
So you're blue? Wow. Are you blue?
Oh, okay, my phone loses connection at work. I have to walk over to the window. I don't know much that can help with that. This situation is more so about Wi-Fi. Now, if you had like that gets complicated. I don't know much about like cell boosters and things like that. You almost can't really do anything if your phone doesn't work well at your job. You would probably have to change like phone carriers or something like that. There are kind of some ways to find solutions, but nothing that I feel like can be deployed easily by an employee.
Can I make it? I can't catch up to him.
Hey, Ann, good to see you. EMP bags, blah, 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 blah. Protect devices against solar flares, lightning, and man-made EMPs. True.
So close.
That's alarming. I don't know why a power station would block a router unless you... Hey, dude. You're supposed to be upstairs anyway. Get a grip, please. Thanks for hanging out, even quietly. I appreciate it. Thumbs up the video. I know Jason Noy does interference testing on like AM radios and stuff like that, and I imagine that could be a part of it. It's very interesting. All right, I feel like I gave enough cushion, but the chat will still be live for a little bit.